We all like to be wanted. It's that glance or that compliment, the text that lights up your phone, or the spark that says, "I see you." See, there's nothing wrong with wanting to be seen. It's human and it's beautiful and lovely. But somewhere along the way, though, I think many of us we started confusing being wanted with being worthy, and that's where I think the story broke. Welcome to Uber Bintegers, where integrity grounds our soul and intimacy brings us back home. Today, today we're talking about one of the most deceptive equations in our culture, and that is that attraction means that you're validated. Because attraction is powerful, but it's not proof. I mean, it can mean connection or chemistry, intrigue, curiosity, but not necessarily care or capacity or character. And when we confuse attraction for validation, we start giving it authority that it was never meant to have. We start depending on someone's desire to confirm what we should already know about ourselves, and that is that we matter. But here's how it starts, I think, for many of us. I think it starts very early, right? It's it's that rush when someone liked your post, for example, or your picture, or your energy, or your body, and it felt affirming. Finally, you were seen. Finally, someone noticed what others would miss along the way. And then when that rush faded, we went looking again, and again, and again, until the attraction became the very way that we measured our worth. And it was subtle, but it was relentless, right? We start asking, who's looking at me? Instead of asking, am I living in alignment with who I am? We start wondering, do they want me? Instead of, do I want to be here? And we start equating desire with depth, thinking the more someone wants us, the more lovable that we will be then, right? But attraction by itself, it doesn't prove love. It proves awareness, and it proves interest and attention, and sometimes even projection. But the thing is, people, we aren't always drawn to people for who they are, right? And people aren't always drawn to us because of who we are. They're drawn to what we represent. And there's like a fantasy or a missing piece, right? There's this momentary escape, perhaps. And sometimes there's attraction, but it's about their story and not necessarily our story. See, the performance of being wanted lets someone tell the truth. Some of us learned how to perform for attraction, and we learned what to say and how to dress, right? How to flirt or how to glow just under the right kind of attention. And we learned how to make people want us, even when we weren't sure that we wanted ourselves. See, we didn't call this performance. We call this confidence, right? But deep down, it was often this quiet audition of sorts. A hope that if someone chose us, then we could finally rest. Only we never did, because validation from attraction is like sugar. Like it spikes fast, but it crashes hard, right? You get the hit, you feel alive, perhaps you feel seen, and then it fades, and then you're hungry again. And if we're not careful, though, we start chasing that hit, and we start shaping our behavior around that hit. We start mistaking magnetism for meaning. And then we forget that real connection requires something deeper than chemistry. It requires integrity, and it requires intimacy. So integrity is like the anchor beneath the flirt. Integrity would ask questions like, am I showing up as who I really am, or who I think that they'll want? It's the quiet question that breaks that spell, because attraction that's built on performance, it can get exhausting. But attraction that's grounded in truth, that's where freedom is, I think. And when we're anchored in integrity, we don't need to manipulate desire anymore. We can actually enjoy it without being enslaved to it. We can receive admiration without turning it into proof. And we can see and be seen and still stay rooted where we are. See, integrity gives us the courage to in essence say, I don't need to be everyone's type. I don't need to win every heart. I don't need universal appeal, if you will, to be valuable. See, I'd rather just be known than noticed. And that's a hard thing to learn in a world that worships image over essence. Because the truth is, attraction sells. It markets everything from relationships to brands to beliefs. And attraction can do all this, but it can't hold you when you're tired. It can't grow when you're afraid. It can't sustain a connection when reality replaces projection. See, integrity can do that very thing. Intimacy is what I would say is the proof beneath the pull, right? So let's just talk a little bit about intimacy for a moment. Intimacy is a place where attraction either deepens or dies. Because attraction is very surface level. But intimacy, I would say, is soul level. Attraction would say, I want you. But intimacy would say, I'm willing to see you as you are. Attraction would be the thing that chases novelty, whereas intimacy embraces honesty. Attraction seeks adrenaline, perhaps, whereas intimacy builds safety, right? And safety lets us be honest. It doesn't always exist or feel sexy at first, right? But it's the very soil where true love can grow. And when we conflate attraction with validation, we keep chasing sparks instead of building warmth. And then we fall for potential instead of presence. And then we seek recognition instead of the relationship. But when we let intimacy lead, then attraction becomes sacred. It becomes this expression of connection and not compensation per se. But how we heal the pattern is a really important part of this piece here. So, how do we begin to shift this paradigm? I think it starts with awareness. It continues with boundaries, and then I think it matures with a sense of embodiment. We start by noticing our hunger, and we ask questions like, why do I feel so alive when someone wants me? Or what story am I telling myself when someone doesn't want me? Or what do I believe about my worth when I'm unseen? And then we practice boundaries. We learn to hold attraction lightly, and then we stop rewarding people for attention that they haven't really earned. We stop giving full access to people who only bring curiosity. And then we stop mistaking chemistry for compatibility. And then most importantly, I would say, we return to our own bodies. We learn to feel our worth from the inside again. We learn to breathe in our own in our own way, instead of waiting for someone else to validate this. We learn to stand in our own energy and say, I am desirable because I exist, not because you see me. See, that's intimacy with self. And it's from this place that attraction becomes mutual and not manipulative. It's like living from worth and not from the source of your wound. See, we've spent years trying to prove our worth through attraction, and we've mistaken visibility for validation and desirability for destiny. But those are the wounds that we're speaking instead of wisdom, right? And when we begin to heal our attraction and the patterns of attraction that we had, things begin to shift. We stop chasing the wounds that harm us, and we stop confusing excitement with alignment. And we stop needing every spark to become this fire source. We instead begin to recognize that real validation isn't being wanted, it's being understood. It's being met in the fullness of who we are. It's being accepted without having to shrink. See, that's intimacy. And intimacy built on integrity, that's love. That's worth trusting. So let's start living like that again. Not waiting for someone's gaze to remind us that we're enough, but instead walking into rooms already remembering that we are enough. Tomorrow, we're going to keep building on this truth. We're going to explore tomorrow how to unlearn the hustle for visibility and why being seen isn't the same as actually being known. But for today, let's maybe end here. See, attraction can open the door, but it's only integrity and intimacy that can keep the light on the inside. See, we were never meant to chase validation. We were meant to remember our own worth and then live from that place. Thanks for watching. I will see you in tomorrow's episode.